Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are in the world. My name is Clive Bearman, and as it says on the slide there, I am the Director of Marketing for Informatica Cloud. I'm very excited today to have two superstars on my team that's going to provide you with some great content today. I have Ron Lunasian here in the room with me. Hi, Ron. Good morning.
Hello, Clive.
And I also have Rakesh Bansal, who's going to give a great customer story. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what Rakesh has to say. Good morning, Rakesh.
Morning, Clive.
So if you're like me, I have kids, and school is over, and summer school is about to begin, and we are no different here. We're going to do a short summer school series. Don't get cast away on a data island. I've got a summer theme going. The essential guide to connecting with Salesforce, so that's what we're going to look at today. Customer relationships, kind of like that May to December or May to September fling you might be interested in, so we're going to look at what happens beyond September, perhaps with customer relationships. And then the third and final webinar in this series is mobilizing process. We're going to work from the beach, so we're going to see how we can take some of this Salesforce stuff, all of the data, some of that MDM, and move that to mobile usage. So, real nice series. The good news is there is no test, so I'm not going to determine whether you graduate or not, but I will say that if you complete all 3 lessons, you'll get a small gift card for a summer treat. So today's lesson, we're going to learn the fastest way to integrate and manage data in Salesforce. And Ron's going to show some superb demos. I've seen him do it before. Absolute whiz at it. So we're going to see some cloud integration, data management challenges. We'll do the essential guide. We'll look at the demonstration. We'll have a nice real-world example from Rakesh there. A Q&A we'll answer at the end. And I've also going to set you some homework, but don't panic. It's not mandatory, so I'm going to set some homework. So again, why are there 3 lessons? Primarily because we're seeing 3 big challenges with integration and data management, and those 3 challenges are easily articulated. Right? We have often we see people implement Salesforce, and it becomes just another data silo. And along with that data silo, the data also becomes inconsistent, especially when you step up your Salesforce implementations and have maybe multiple Salesforce orgs, or maybe different divisions using different types of Salesforce. And then the third sort of thing to compound all of that really is the sort of Salesforce UI doesn't really help us ensure the integrity of that data. So it's really easy for Salesforce users to either corrupt data or miss out data, and primarily because there's no good user interface on that. So that's a lot of stuff to cover, and that's why we've broken it into 3 sections. So the first one really is about that data silo. We're going to solve that data silo problem. So, well, what's wrong with the data silo? It might just work for some folks. I mean, after all, it is just sales data, right? Nobody important's really interested in anything else. Well, we know that we need business needs accurate reporting. We need accurate data, but we don't just draw that data from sales to see what's happening across the business. There's also marketing and maybe support and maybe other functions. And Salesforce now is they've got the module for marketing. We've got a module for support. We've got custom applications. We're really using it in many places. And of course, if that's not enough, we're also maybe going horizontally across those things. In many situations, we maybe have other I don't like the term legacy, but maybe some other applications that we have on premise that we've implemented in the past. So maybe those folks that are in sales, perhaps we're selling online and we're using NetSuite to cover that. And once we've sold a good, perhaps our system of record would be SAP as a manufacturing to fulfill those orders. So we need to broker the on-premise world, we need to broker the data from the cloud applications and within Salesforce organizations themselves to get that real true picture of what's happening in the business driven by that data. Let's go to a real-world example. So I actually was at a customer site the other day, and they said Salesforce is great, and I'm using it for a whole bunch of things. And as we see here, leads and accounts and contacts, those are standard Salesforce objects that whenever I create a lead or I meet somebody, I create a contact, and that goes into Salesforce. However, my system of record is an SAP system. We have a custom object within Salesforce, and that we've called order. But I need to get the data in and out of Salesforce. I need to synchronize it with my SAP system. And really anything of any interest, as I said, the business requirements. So for example here, the VP of Sales is asking how many leads become orders. I need to cross-reference accurate data against the leads that are in Salesforce, maybe the order data, and maybe those accounts and contacts too. So that's kind of like where I'm coming from here. That Salesforce, although is a key repository for a whole bunch of data, I still need to reach outside of Salesforce to get that true picture of what's happening in my business. So what are the options for Salesforce data integration? Well, I could use the manual tools. Salesforce has some tools. I'm trying to think of the actual name now. I think it's called Data Loader.
Yep, that's right.
That allows you. Thanks, Ron. For that takes a flat file and will just stuff the data into Salesforce. I could be a bit more sophisticated and use Apex or Apex coding to make calls to other systems. But I've then got to go to development per se to write to APIs to get that data and move it in and out. Or I could use a cloud integration suite, and I've got a little link there. So when I send these slides or when you see these slides afterwards, you can click that link and see the types of evaluation criteria that might be useful to look at when you have integration suites. But I think that for me, my best option would be the third one there. So I'm going to say mine is the best. I think it's the best. I know it's the best. Primarily because of this sort of four-phase approach. The tool really covers the design, the high-speed execution of that data transfer, the monitoring to make sure that all that data has been transferred and is up to date, and of course that ongoing administration for who can perform the data transfer itself. So, and again, this is not just me. You can see at the top, award-winning data integration. I actually just want to pass it over to Ron, and he can show you exactly what I mean with the toolset.
Perfect, Clive. I hope everyone's having a good early start to the summer already. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is jump right into the product to show you guys what our capabilities are around data integration in the cloud. Now, to start the demo, I've got my browser open, and you see that we're pointing to informaticacloud.com. So anybody that's out there, if you want more information about the products you're going to see here, just go to this website, and this is also in just a quick shout to the taking a trial area. Clive will talk about this more at the end, but we do have that ability, and quite a few, if not most of our customers have gone ahead and taken a trial before going ahead and purchasing the product. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and log in with my demo account. And now that we're inside of Informatica Cloud, if I were to go to the Applications tab, here you see all the different service offerings that we provide. So we actually provide a whole host of integration capabilities here. Now, what I'll start off demoing is something that we call data synchronization. And this, for the most part, is the most heavily used service that we provide. And this really does allow you to move data in and out of the cloud, integrating it with other cloud sources, on-premise sources, or on-premise to on-premise sources. So really this is a generic use integration solution delivered in the cloud. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit the New button. And what you see is a very simple 6-step wizard to build and perform those integrations. So I'm going to go ahead and build an integration from scratch. So I'll create this and I'll call it my summer school demo. And what I'm going to do in this simple use case is to go ahead and move data from an on-premise database that I've got running, and I'm going to move it into Salesforce.com. All right, so by going ahead and moving to step 2, this is where I'm going to choose my source. So where am I going to pull data out of? If I were starting from scratch for the first time, so if you were to go up and sign up for a trial, you'd be prompted to specify your connection details. And as you can see here, we can connect to a whole host of both on-premise and cloud apps that are out there. And if you were to connect to a SQL Server database, which is where my demo data is located, here you see we're just going to specify some very simple, essentially ODBC-like information to connect to that data source. And that's what I'm going to do here now, is I'm just going to go ahead and pick my pre-configured connection to my local SQL database. And by connecting to the database, we see all of the tables and views that are available to my user. So I'm just going to grab some basic account data, and I'm going to load that into my account object in Salesforce. So I choose the object, you see a quick data preview, and I'm ready to move on to step 3. So now in step 3, I can just go off and, in this case again, I'm just going to choose my Salesforce demo org. And what will pop up under my target object list will look very similar to what you saw with our relational connectivity in my source. I'm not showing you the underlying Salesforce Web Service calls. We're just showing the actual object layer. So we see all of your standard objects and custom objects that are out there. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and just choose my account object, and then I can move on to step 4. Step 4, this is an optional step. This is where I can add data filters. So if I only wanted to, let's say, pull over rows from my on-premise database where they were just created this year, right, I can just go ahead and put in a standard data filter. But this is optional, so I'm not going to go ahead and do that. And really get to step 5. This is really where kind of the magic happens. Right, so this is where you would define how the data moves from source to target. And here you see we've already got some fields that have automatically been mapped, and that's because the field names match by name. So intelligently we see that there's a match, so we've gone ahead and made the link. But for fields that don't match by name, for instance, on my account field in Salesforce, it's account space name, but in my source it's account underscore name, I can just drag and drop that over here in the browser. And better yet, we've got billing street, which is a single field here in my target, but I've got address 1 and address 2, so 2 fields in my source. So I need to perform some level of data translation to get the data in from the source to the target. So this is really where kind of the value of Informatica Cloud really shines through. So here I'm going to drag both address 1 and address 2, and now you see that we've done a concat by default. But you also see that's a hyperlink. So if I drill into that, this is where you start to see the power of Informatica Cloud. It's not just simple concats, but I've got a whole host of functions available, over 120 functions that are listed here. They're also listed by type. So you see there's a whole bunch of interesting things that you can do to your data to get it in and out of Salesforce and your other cloud applications, including things like decode and if statements. Right, so if you have conditional statements where you needed to convert it over from a coded value to something that looks more like a drop-down value, you'd be able to do that with these functions.
Now the free data loader would just spit that out, right? It would just, the rows that didn't match would just erase that data altogether, right?
That's correct, Clive. So anything that's out there, let's say if you're using the Salesforce-provided Apex data loader, these sorts of capabilities aren't available. So you would not be able to do this within that solution. Additionally, we also can not just perform those translation types of functions, we can also perform lookups. Right? So this is, again, where if, let's say, you had coded values in your source and you actually had a table that translated the coded values into descriptions, you could use our lookup capability to deal with that. All right, so that's our transformation capabilities. Very easy to use, very powerful at the same time. And lastly, step 6, not only can you build integrations in the cloud, you can schedule and run them on a recurring basis. So I can go off and choose an existing schedule that I've already created, or, again, if you're starting from scratch, you can just go off and create your own schedules. So very flexible. You can really kind of do whatever you need to do to run these things on an ongoing basis. And Informatica Cloud also has a REST API, public-facing REST API. So if you wanted to schedule and execute tasks on your own using your own scheduler or business process tool, you could do that using the APIs. All right, I'm going to go ahead, save and run this so we can actually see this working in progress. And what you see now that I'm running it, Informatica Cloud automatically goes to our monitoring screen. So it's another value that we provide being a cloud-based application. You can log in from anywhere. Any browser in the world that has connectivity to the internet, you'd be able to see what's currently running, or now that it's completed here, we see what has run in the past. So here we see our activity log. So we can check this from anywhere. Informatica Cloud also has a mobile application, so you can actually do this natively on your iPhone or Android device. All right, so that's Informatica Cloud and our basic synchronization capabilities. Since it looks like we've got a little bit of time, let me just quickly show some of the other applications, or at least talk about the other services that we provide. We also have the ability with Informatica Cloud through, again, a very simple wizard process where we can perform postal address validation and cleansing. We can also validate whether or not emails are real emails that can receive, and do lookups against the do not call registry. So if you've got lead data or contact data that you needed to verify postal address, email, and again that do not call registry lookup, we have very simple wizards to perform that. We also have the ability to perform very simple data replication. This is very popular with some of our larger Salesforce customers, where what this will do is it'll perform an archived copy of Salesforce and move it on-premise. So if you wanted to have an on-premise archive of your Salesforce data, you can simply go off, choose your Salesforce login, choose either all objects or specifically choose objects that you're interested in. And then what will happen next in step 2 is you're just going to go off and say, where do I want to archive this data to locally? And if I go ahead and save and run this, what this will do is automatically create tables in this local database that you've just specified, and it'll create tables that look just like your Salesforce objects, and it'll keep a local copy on-premise so that you have that archive. And then if you have it set here for incremental load, if you run this on a recurring basis, it'll keep that data in sync with Salesforce based off of your schedule. It'll also keep the schema in sync. So if you created 5 new fields in your Salesforce object, those changes would be replicated over to your local database automatically. Just one other service that I want to highlight quickly, which I think is really interesting, that we just released in our last summer release. This is data masking capabilities. The use case here is if you've got Salesforce sandboxes that are out there, and just because maybe your production Salesforce Org has got some very sensitive data, and you don't want the people that have access to the sandbox to see the actual data, this will mask your sandbox orgs. So to see that in action, again, provided all through a very simple 4-step wizard this time, you just choose your Salesforce org. Again, we recommend this only be used with your sandboxes. And you choose your object. And up next was where you can provide your masking rules to go off and specify how you're going to go and mask. So if let's say I want my account numbers, I don't want them exposed, I want them masked, so I say that, let's say that's a key, and I can now go in and configure what kind of the masking formats that you want to apply. So very powerful functionality. Mask your key data elements things like your annual revenue, your account numbers, IDs, your addresses. Very easy way of masking the data.
Presumably that works. Then when you make the local copy, that data will be masked.
That's exactly right.
At the local database, right?
If you were to use replication on top of or after you do data masking, yes, you would see that. So very powerful functionality, all very simple and easy to use, provided by Informatica Cloud. So a lot of people will start off with the demo that I showed you, the data synchronization capabilities, and then expand their use of Informatica Cloud across the different other services that we provide.
That's cool.
All right.
Can I ask you to show you one more thing?
Sure.
You know,
oh yeah.
The great demos always have one more thing, right? So the security around user administration and things like that, can I see that too?
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me, Clive. So here under the administration tab, we've got this notion of user groups. And this is something that is heavily used with some of our larger Salesforce customers. And the idea is that you might have developers that can build certain tasks, but only build against the sandbox. They can't actually run things against production. But then you've got the operations team that's responsible for running the things in production, but they shouldn't be able to actually modify anything. Right? So there's a clear separation of responsibilities within some of our larger customers. So with this functionality, you can have a developer group. You can assign which users are in which groups. But they have the ability to build and create the individual jobs, but they can only read and not modify or create some of the global objects, like connections and schedules. And on the flip side, the operations team, they can build and manage those global objects, and they can only read and execute jobs built by developers. They can't actually modify anything. So that you can do at a global level, but then at the individual object layer, for instance, we've got our connections here. Let's say your Salesforce production org is very sensitive. You don't want developers to even have access to that, so they can't accidentally do anything to the production data. So you can go in and override the default permissions and don't even give them read access to the production connection. So when they go in and build their mappings and their rules, they don't even see this connection drop down or appear in their drop downs. And then on the flip side, you can have these tasks that have been created, and if you train your operations team, so if there is a failure in the middle of the night, they know how to go in and fix things, you can again go in here and give them update permissions on individual objects. It's a very powerful functionality, but again, provided in a very simple and easy to use way.
I'm going to put you on the spot. The administration can be done on the mobile app too, or
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Oh, perfect. I didn't know the answer to that, so I was hesitant in asking. So, well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, very powerful stuff here with Informatica Cloud, and as you can see, it's only taken a few minutes to show this, and again, I think it goes to the power of the ease of use of Informatica Cloud.
I think that, I'm going to go back, spoke to all of these things, right? The manual tools, not only time-consuming and error-prone, just didn't have that additional functionality either, like the contact validation or the backup or anything. That's great.
That's right.
Apex coding won't give you any of that either, and that'll just help you with the point-to-point connection. And much more functionality in that suite of tools there and those applications than you would get with just any standard kind of middleware solution that you might have.
Yeah, that's right. And I think this all goes back to the fact that Informatica Cloud is all built on top of something that we call Informatica Vibe. So Informatica, historically, we've been in the data integration space since the early 90s. So even though we have a separate cloud offering, it still leverages a lot of the core technology that Informatica has been providing over the years. And that's why you see we don't just have the integration, standard integration, what you would expect, source, target, mapping, rules. Got all this other really cool functionality around data masking and data quality with address validation and those sorts of things, because we've got the full portfolio of Informatica Cloud or Informatica on-premise at the disposal of the engineers in the Informatica Cloud team. So very excited with the new functionality that we've got, and you would expect to see more and new functionality being released on an ongoing basis from us.
as we can see, Informatica is not just used by us, but is used by over 2,000 Salesforce.com customers. We're doing hundreds of connecting to hundreds of SaaS and on-premise applications, and integrating and exchanging billions and billions of records a day. I think the best approach would be to hear from a customer themselves that's going to talk about how they use the Informatica Cloud with their Salesforce implementation. And at this point, I think I'd like to turn it over to Rakesh. So, Rakesh, take it away.
Hi, Clive. Thanks, Clive. I'll take you through the use case of why we implemented Informatica Cloud. What forced us to look into this solution that Informatica has it to integrate applications on the cloud with applications on-premise. As you may know, Brocade is a company in the networking space. Like, if you guys are from IT, which I guess most of us are, we provide the solutions around data center and networking space, storage area network. A few things about us: specialize in 100 gigabyte Ethernet. Fiber channel over Ethernet is our specialty. We are the backbone behind the data center networks. Now, we, like any other customer, Brocade also uses Salesforce Sales Cloud, and we started looking into opportunity to use support module of Sales Cloud. And that's the time it came. We have to pump millions of records from our Oracle applications to Sales Cloud, as well as support module of the Sales Cloud. There was a need for us to revisit how should we be integrating our cloud application with on-premise, and there's a constant data flow that goes across slew of applications. So we were tasked to look at, hey, can we have a solution which can solve the data integration problems, be it a Salesforce on the cloud or be it any cloud application with on-premise. It could be from cloud to cloud as well. So we were supposed to build up an architecture pattern around the solution. The tool has to be easy. It doesn't have to be BI-driven like Informatica is. Informatica is mostly used by BI folks, as far as I understand, and Clive and Ron may agree or not with me. So we were looking for ease of use that could be used by people who are not from BI background, just a simple IT background, and it should be able to support bidirectional data flow. This is the use case that we had to look into cloud as a solution, Informatica Cloud as a solution. And obviously Informatica Cloud came out with the flying colors, and I haven't been coding since few years, but I was able to download this tool, and within one day I was able to implement it on a POC. So I had a POC developed for our executive team to sell this, and it was very well taken. Now the architecture, what do we have in Brocade? We have Oracle ERP as our finance, operations, order management, supply chain hosting modules. We have an Agile, which is our product lifecycle management tools. We have a custom application for workforce optimization. We also have a data warehouse, which has reporting needs for all the applications. Then we have sales module as well as support module on the Salesforce, and our task was to get data out of Salesforce and get data into Salesforce. Hence, there was a need to stage the data into staging environment, and like Clive and Ron pointed out, we could mask certain data if there was a need in staging, and we can also control the data level access that we want to give to different teams within IT. There's a firewall, as I would guess every data center in today's world has. So we installed the secure agent, which which is the core of Informatica Cloud, inside the data center, and that's where the data flow happens through Secure Agent. Now, the Salesforce, if you want to push data or pull data, Secure Agent is the one which pulls data. Your Informatica Cloud application only does user admin. It keeps the credentials of all the source and target applications. It has a task scheduler. Our information security team was very paranoid about, before we sign on to any cloud application, in today's world, data is the key, and we wanted to make sure there is no data that is hosted on Informatica Cloud, be it Salesforce, be it my custom applications or ERP. So it was confirmed there's no data stored on cloud except the user administration credentials of that nature. And we have an inbound schema within Salesforce. Whatever data comes from Salesforce, we load into our inbound schema within this staging database. Then, depending on what kind of need it is, service request goes to workforce optimization, failure analysis data goes to product lifecycle management, and everything goes to BI, because BI is our reporting module. And here we were intending to use, we could use Informatica Cloud also. We continued to use Power Center because we had a code which was already implemented for this purpose. But for use case purpose, you could use Informatica Cloud for this transformation within data center as well. As a POC, I did use Informatica Cloud. We had loaded millions of entitlements records from ERP to Salesforce for our initial implementation, and the reason we got here is we ran into issues with data loader of Salesforce. It was a mess. We couldn't do what we were trying to achieve using Informatica, and there's a two-way directional flow between our inbound staging database to Salesforce, and you could schedule it the way it demands.
Now, Rakesh, so do some of your folks do reporting inside Salesforce too, using the reporting tool inside Salesforce, or is mostly all of the business reports done on the BI platform?
We do use a little bit of reporting only for our service module of the Salesforce, but as far as my sales module goes, everything comes out of our BI. So 90% of the reporting comes out of BI. Since service module is fairly new, certain people who are getting onto the service module of Salesforce, they do part of the reporting from Salesforce, but majority comes out of our BI data warehouse instance.
So that's a good option, right? So now you've got the data integrated. You're getting the same data of both ends, pretty much, right? You're getting you're getting richer, if you like, reports from your BI tool, and you're getting a sort of subset just for the folks that really care from that are using the Service Cloud, right?
That's so well said, Clive. I mean, we're using it for our reporting, and we are using it for consumption for other applications as well.
Perfect.
That's right. And another thing is we are also discussing to implement this with our MDM, so that we have accounts in Salesforce, we have customers in ERP, we have our own MDM. How do we integrate that using Informatica Cloud? That discussion is going on. Thanks for bringing that up, Clive.
Thanks.
So the biggest challenge that I had before we implemented Informatica Cloud is selling this to our security group. Like I was mentioning earlier, we had to make sure how do we control the number of connections that goes from Informatica Cloud to be it Salesforce, sales module, service module, Oracle ERP, PLM. We also have some HR data there, so a lot of sensitive data. We have to make sure everybody doesn't have access to every source or target. So it does manages that well. No application data is stored in the cloud. All passwords are encrypted. Data communication, it's 128-bit encryption is there. And last but not the least,
So as you were just saying, let me just repeat. So the Informatica Cloud only stores the sort of target metadata. So all of the data's in either Salesforce or in your on-premise systems. The source target and database credentials are all encrypted. The database communication between that is all 128-bit SSL.
That's right.
As you're saying, we're ISO 27001 compliant and SAS 70 level 2. It's interesting. You're accessing or you're restricting the range of IPs that could access the data through the cloud, and user roles and responsibility can be used to credential the tasks. And I think Ron showed that already. So that's fantastic.
That's right. That's right.
And you said you tried a proof of concept and you got up and running in 3 days. Did you say?
That's right. We had our first thing up and running within 3 days. And another thing is, we are an Informatica shop, so I do have Power Center developers, but this was also used by my ERP team, middleware team, and PLM team. So all other teams which doesn't know anything about Informatica, they could use it, within a few days. I have people using from offshore. I have people using on-site. So it's a good mix. It does serve the need of complete IT data integration at this point of time.
Thanks, Rakesh. It was a really nice use case, really nice customer story there. So thanks again.
You're welcome, Clive.
So I'll now come on to the question and answer session. If any of my students out there want to send me a question, put that in the Q&A box. We've already had a couple come in. One was, can we get the slides? And the answer is absolutely. We'll send you a link to where these slides will come from after the webinar is concluded. I'm just reading here. Another one asks, what type of training is required to get this up and running? So actually, I think while I've got Ron here, Ron, what sort of training? It looked pretty simple how to actually use it. So what sort of training is required?
So there's nothing that's required. I mean, we've actually seen, and this is one of the really cool things that we saw very early on with the product, when we found people that had discovered Informatica Cloud, got everything configured up and running, and actually started moving data in less than 30 minutes. But with that being said, I mean, there is some advanced functionality that's in there. So we've got a ton of videos that are out on our website and are hosted essentially on YouTube. So you can take a look at the Informatica Cloud website or take a look at YouTube. And we do actually also offer web training on the products. So there is some training that we do provide to get through some of the more advanced topics. So there's a whole host of stuff, and again, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's just out there in videos for free.
I have a question here. Can we show how integrations move through Dev, QA, Prod? How would we handle that?
Sure. We actually have this notion of the ability to migrate objects. So what you would be prompted for, and again, it's going to be in a very simple based, interface, like the wizards that you saw. So it'll prompt you for your credentials for the other org or the other instance of Informatica Cloud that you're moving from. So in the instance of moving from, let's say, a QA environment into production, you would log into your production environment. You go into the migrate area. You're then prompted for the QA credentials. Once you specify that, you would get a list of all of the objects that were created, and you can simply migrate them into your production system. So very easy to do.
Great. Hopefully that answers the question for our guest there. And another question that I see here is, what types of volumes are we talking about that can be moved? Is there an upper limit?
So because Informatica Cloud, through the Vibe capabilities or the virtual data machine that really powers Informatica Cloud, we are actually behind the scenes really leveraging the true Informatica data integration engine that powers the same enterprise class product that's on our on-premise side. So we have seen customers move millions, if not tens of millions of rows, approaching hundreds of millions of rows using Informatica Cloud on an ongoing nightly basis. So I think that's one of the key strengths actually with Informatica products in general, is we are renowned for our performance and scalability, and all of that translates over to our cloud products as well, because we do use the same underlying technology.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm with time galloping on for us, I'm going to make a last call for questions. So if you have a last call for questions, I'm speak now, forever hold your peace, so to speak. Alrighty. So since I have no questions, I'm going to move on to your homework assignment. So let's see. So I think the first thing is if you don't have it going on. Whenever I do a last question, there's always one that comes in. Do Salesforce limits for bulk API and SOAP API apply? That's a good question, actually.
Because underlying the technology, when we actually make a call to Salesforce, we are going through the standard API. So whether it's the bulk API or whether it's the standard web services-based API, we are making those standard calls. So based off of the user, the credentials that you use for these connections, your Salesforce limits will apply.
Right. Again, the user themselves, not Informatica's limits. So
that's right.
So that's presumably on a per org basis, right?
It's usually per org, yes.
So again, hopefully that answers our guest question there. So there wasn't a diversion to get out the homework, get out of doing the homework. So the homework is register for our 30-day free trial. So informaticacloud.com/summer school trial. And I think that'll be, I think you have 30 days to set that up and try it for yourself. I mean, there's some great capabilities in there, as we saw today. Get social and tell a friend. So follow us on Twitter at InfoCloud, and please forward this email to the invite that you had to other folks. We'll still work something out for the summer treat. So if they watch the replay, which we'll put up a bit later today, and then obviously come to the next lesson. So, we'll go back to those three problems that we have with data integration and data management with Salesforce. Right. The first problem is getting the data in and out at the bare minimum, beyond what Ron showed us today. So the second thing is we're going to look at the relationships between that data and multiple orgs. And then, of course, the last one, we're going to look at process and mobile processes. So the next one is July the 18th at 10 a.m. Pacific. And we hope to see you there. So if there are no more questions, I think the only thing for me to do is thank Rakesh. Rakesh, great job. Thanks for explaining how you use Informatica Cloud with your Salesforce and BI today. And I'd also like to thank Ron for doing such a superb job with the demo. So with that, thanks everybody, and hopefully have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Clive. Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Clive.